as a teacher in primary schools because I'd spent a year in the chemical industry and went, this is horrific. I need young people to know about this. I need young people to understand and make choices about what they want about their environment and their world, which took me into teaching. I became a passionate teacher who then discovered that sometimes young people would say to me things like, Mrs. Emery, Matthew's really good at maths, and I'm just lucky. Julie, if she'd gone on believing she was just lucky, would one day run out of her luck in maths. I need young people to understand what they're great at and be able to use those skills to go on places. So that's what's driven me through a career in which I've worked in teacher education for 10 years, eventually becoming Dean of Education and Psychology at the University of Worcester. I've worked in central government, supporting improvement work with the department when they were doing Standards of Effectiveness Unit with Michael Barber. I've worked in the London Centre for Leadership in Learning, looking at London leaders for the Institute of Education. I worked at the Training and Development Agency, all about extended services in schools. All those things that get children and young people into their classrooms ready to learn. Because if they're tired, they're hungry, they're frightened, they're ill, they don't learn. So all those other things beyond the immediate classroom are really important responsibilities in our schools. And then it was my privilege to be appointed 3.5 months ago, no longer the new girl, 3.5 months ago to the National Children's Bureau. The National Children's Bureau is about working for children with children. And we have a very big group of young National Children's Bureau members. We support the children's, the Council of Disabled Children, the Early Childhood Unit. We have a big programme of work in bringing young people into work through us ourselves, our skills development programme. But our commitment is always about reducing the impact of inequalities on children and young people, both to give them better experiences in the here and now, but equally importantly to improve their life chances. And that's what's driven me right through my career to date. And the one thing I do say being in this room today, I feel terribly old. I used to be the young one, and you suddenly find there's a day comes when you're not. So, some of the things I want to say this morning are a bit about where should schools play into this? And shouldn't we see our schools taking some more responsibility in this? The Institute of Fiscal Studies in 2009 reported on tracking a cohort of teenagers, 15,000 of them, born in 1989 and 1990. 1 in 5 of the poorest fifth of that sample, only 1 in 5, got 5 or more GCSEs. So of our poorest children in that group, only 1 in 5. Whereas the wealthiest, 3/4 got 5 GCSEs. It's a stark difference. Come to the figures we've been talking about in terms of employment. 15% of young people from the poorest fifth of the sample were not in education, training or employment at 17. Only 2% from the richest fifth of the sample were in that same position. And finally, and perhaps very tellingly about how their lives work and whether school feels relevant or not, nearly 1/4 of teenagers from the poorest fifth of the sample played truant regularly at 14, compared to only 8% of the richest fifth. Now, you might say, well, that's all about their fault. Is it? Or is it about having a sense in which school isn't relevant, school is not supporting them, school is not meeting their needs, understanding where they're coming from? Because if you've progressed into secondary school still with poor reading skills, poor writing skills, poor mathematics skills, engaging in learning is blooming difficult. We've just done an evaluation of some work we did with JP Morgan and Nokia on life skills for employability, working with 300 young people at risk in Lambeth and Waltham Forest. And what we found was that the project actually had developed them in terms of what were the life skills they wanted, working with them about what are the skills you need to develop to feel confident about looking for a job, becoming a volunteer, often a big step towards going towards a real job for many of them, and looking at taking part and supporting others. Huge, huge improvement in their perceptions of themselves and their skills. But in order to take this forward, we've got to see the exact opposite of what we've really got at the moment in terms of schools becoming more and more separate, more and more fragmented, academies here, free schools there, Harris Group here, ARC there. Great, but they have to come together. They have to come together with their community, with their further education colleges, and most importantly in their local areas, their employers. It really needs a stronger sense of what alternative pathways there are, supported by real people in local areas, giving that sense. We need to give our young people a really strong belief about what's possible. Strong role models. One of the things I want to do more than anything is get those amazing guys who sit on the top of those amazing cranes, lifting things on and off onto the shard and things, talking to young people about how did you get from there to being at the top of that crane? The guy who's running, or the woman who's running the entire site. There's 35 ready-mix concrete lorries out there, ready to pour concrete, only the skimming isn't ready to be done. What do you do? That's the most fantastic bit of problem solving. But we don't show our young people what those opportunities and pathways are and how exciting and interesting and immensely challenging those sorts of roles can be, and what opportunities they give. So giving that opportunity, and also giving them the opportunity to have business people who support them as mentors and who like young people. I do have a strong suspicion that in this country, if I go to the Netherlands, close friends of the Netherlands, they really love their children. They go everywhere, they talk to their children, talk to other people's children. They don't like talking to children. Don't see, we sort of, you know. And as for those ones, I mean, little ones are lovely. They're very attractive. They're very sweet. Actually, they do tend to pull your stockings a bit, but leave that to one side. But the bigger ones, they have these hoods. They're horrible. Actually, they're not. As a young woman said to me the other day, we're not hard to reach, you just don't make the effort. And I thought that was absolutely chilling. Because I've used that phrase, hard to reach young people. That's nice, I'll put you in a box now. Well, take me out of the box was her request. And I think it's a good request to all of us. Schools need to do much more around their moral purpose of, never mind just the GCSEs or the A-levels, what happens to your young people? Where do they go? Do you come back and talk about it? Is there somebody here who goes on helping to support you beyond that first stage? Wealthy families, well-off families, middle-class families, any of you who've ever been involved with children, any of you yourselves who've been well supported will know you get picked up, you get patted back together, you are going back. I don't care what you think, you're going back. Well, that doesn't happen for some of our kids. They will do it in their turn if we can support them to get there, but we need to help them to get there first of all. So how do we get schools to see part of their moral purpose is about every young person's progression, not just their achievement? And how do we get more young people to think about their options and their opportunities? The thing that made me almost weep recently, talking to our young NCB members, were we do not think we could go to university, our families can't afford it, but we're not sure what we can do. These are 14-year-olds worrying about not being able to do something because of money. This cannot be the right way round. Also, as a group, our young NCB members, desperately unhappy about, guess what? The image in the media. Sandy's point exactly. So much so that they started talking to various editors in the press and the like, and we told them on occasion, no, we're never going to change the image of young people because it really works well when we can portray them negatively. Those are the stories that sell. So our young NCB members said, right, I've had enough of that. Talk to the BBC and produce a viral video, and I'll get Amar to send a copy of that viral video around. Very young people, put it together, trying to change the image of young people, trying to challenge the perceptions. We have to be thinking about how we give them that opportunity to change the perceptions. And just in case you think, oh well, you know, some schools do it really well and some do, they're fantastic, absolutely amazing places. But Birmingham University did some research in 2008 into work placements for young people and found that on the whole, the work placements that schools enabled young people to go to reflected their social class inequality. And it was all a bit hands-off and, you know, you'll get where you want to go, won't you? No, it's not good enough. We have to build that belief and that aspiration. We have to set out that possibility and say, it's not a possibility, you can make it a probability. And that's what we have to be doing here. That's why I think it's so important what Amar and colleagues are trying to do in terms of getting that opportunity for social mobility for business and enterprise. And for me, as somebody who originally came from a family of small business, a brother and a sister who are still in small business, the sister has got a paints firm that's sort of working and another bit that goes on there, and this is what it's about, because this employs other people in local areas and brings belief into a local area. We have to be able to inspire our young people to be involved and to be part of it, not to be left out. Good luck.